They shut down Mavira Dusk's press at noon, so no truth would survive to reach the Dragon King's wedding by dusk. Not with a trial, not with a witness. With a red wax seal pressed over the door of the Cinderprint house and 4 royal guards holding her wrists, while Lady Press-Warden Celise Tor read the accusation aloud to the street. Mavira Dusk, licensed Ember, printer of the lower quarter, is charged with producing false flame, witness, unlawful ember testimony, and ash pages meant to poison the wedding peace. The crowd outside the print house went quiet in the way people did when fear wished to look like manners. Mavira stood between the guards with ink under her nails and soot across her cheek. Her dark work dress smelled of smoke, old paper, and the bitter resin used to wake the Ember Press. Behind her, the machine sat silent in the heart of the shop. Iron ribs, brass rollers, a dragon mouth furnace, and a flat stone bed blackened by years of truth, struck into page by flame. Celise held up one of Mavira's printed sheets with gloved fingers, careful not to touch the words directly. This woman claims villages were burned under noble command, Celise said. She claims witnesses survived. She claims names were removed from tribute ledgers. Lies of this kind do not merely wound reputations. They endanger the realm. They are signed testimonies, Mavira said. One guard tightened his grip. Celise looked at her with a soft, practiced pity. Grief often mistakes smoke for evidence. Mavira did not lower her head. That was the only dignity left to her, and she kept it as if it were a blade. They came to me because no court would hear them. They came to you because you sell outrage to the desperate. The words struck harder than the guard's hand. Mavira looked past Celise to the bundles stacked beneath the press table. 43 testimonies, 3 burned villages, 7 missing children whose names she had copied by candlelight while their mothers shook too badly to speak. She had printed none of them for coin. She had printed because paper could travel where the poor could not. Dragon King Oryn Vael was marrying Lady Ilvessa Torvane at dusk, and House Torvane's banners had flown over 2 of the burned villages. Celise turned toward the guards. Remove the type. Break the plates. The furnace is to be cooled and sealed before the first wedding bell. She did not say burn the pages first. That was how Mavira knew Celise understood the danger. Pages could be copied. Plates could make the dead speak again. At that, Mavira moved, not toward Celise, toward the press. The guards dragged her back before she reached the iron lever. Do not touch it, Celise warned. Mavira laughed once, low and cracked. You are afraid of a dead machine? I am afraid of a careless woman with fire. The street shifted. People believed words like that when a title spoke them. Careless, dangerous, unstable. Easier than asking why the Press-Warden had come herself with royal guards on the day House Torvane entered the dragon throne. Then the crowd parted. Oryn Vael arrived without announcement. He wore black wedding armor under a mantle, scaled in dark bronze, his hair bound back from a face cut too sharply for softness. His eyes were dragon gold, bright and controlled, the kind of eyes that made soldiers stand straighter and liars choose fewer words. Heat moved with him, not flame, but the pressure before flame remembered itself. Celise bowed at once. Your Majesty, the press is secured. Mavira looked at him then. This was the man whose seal had closed her door. He had not ordered her beaten. That was what made it worse. He had only decided that unread pages were less dangerous than a wedding delayed by truth. Oryn's gaze passed over the broken shelves, the seized pages, the guard's hands on her arms. It paused on her wrists. Release one hand, he said. Celise's expression did not change. Majesty, she attempted to interfere with evidence. She cannot interfere with evidence if you are burning it. No one breathed for a moment. The guard released Mavira's right wrist. It was not rescue, not even trust, but it was the first time anyone with power had noticed the shape of what was happening. Mavira flexed her fingers. You closed my press to protect your bride's name before reading one page. Oryn's jaw tightened. I closed it because your pages accused a house about to enter my bloodline, and paper frightened you faster than fire ever did. Oryn did not answer quickly. That was the first honest thing he did. A king could deny insult. He could not deny that he had sealed the door before reading the page. Celise stepped in smoothly. Majesty, she twists guilt into performance. The wedding begins at moonfall. The city must see stability. Oryn looked at the page in Celise's hand. Give it to me. Celise hesitated. Only a breath. Mavira saw it. So did Oryn. The Press-Warden lowered her lashes and offered the sheet. A sample of her invention. Oryn took it. The paper should have trembled in the heat of his hand. All paper did near dragon blood. But Mavira's ash page remained flat and pale, its letters dark as cooled embers. Oryn read the first line. His expression changed before he stopped it. Mavira saw the shock strike him and vanish behind the king. Celisse saw it too. Enough, she said, sharper now. Break the plates. A guard lifted the first testimony plate from the press bed and raised a hammer. Mavira's breath stopped. That plate carried the village of Halvik Ford. 29 names. One survivor's mark pressed in blood where ink had failed. The hammer fell. Ink under Mavira's nails heated. One black drop slid from her thumb to the floor. The press heard it before the court did. The Ember Press woke. No one touched the lever. No flame burned in the furnace. No ink sat in the tray. Still, the press gave one deep, grinding breath. The hammer froze an inch above the plate. The dragon mouth furnace opened by itself, and a sheet of blank ash paper slid beneath the brass rollers. The rollers turned once, slow and heavy, as if dragged by hands buried under the floor. Letters burned onto the page from within. Every letter took heat from the ink beneath her nails. Celisse went white. Oryn stepped closer. The finished sheet rose from the press, edges glowing orange, and drifted through the air between them. Dragon heat rolled from Oryn's body on instinct, hot enough to make the guard stumble back. The page did not burn. It stopped before the king's face. Across it, in ember-black script, was not a village name. It was a wedding record. Bride's house, Torvane. Dowry paid in ash. Beneath the first bell, the dead will print. Mavira's released hand clenched. The ink beneath her nails had burned down to the skin. The fingers she used to set type had gone numb. And for the first time since he arrived, Oryn Vael looked not at the page. He looked at what it had cost her to print. He had sealed her door to stop her pages. Now the truth had opened anyway and taken payment from her body in front of him. The first wedding bell rang before anyone found the courage to tear the page. Its sound rolled down from the dragon citadel, deep and bronze, meant to call the capital toward celebration. Instead, it settled over the cinderprint house like a sentence. The guards did not move. The crowd outside did not cheer. Even the hammer remained suspended above the testimony plate, useless in a hand that had forgotten how to finish destruction. The burning page hovered before Dragon King Oryn Vael. Bride's house, Torvane. Dowry paid in ash. Beneath the first bell, the dead will print. Celise Tor recovered first. Dead ink corruption, she said, sharp enough to cut the silence. A press possession. The machine has been fed grief too long and now spits omen like sickness. Mavira's numb fingers curled against her palm. Not sickness. Payment. The Ember Press had not printed freely. It had taken heat from the ink beneath her nails, from the fingers she used to set type, from the only craft that had ever made the dead less easy to erase. Oryn's gaze moved from the page to her hand. She hated that he noticed. He had noticed too late. Celise turned to the guards. "Destroy the plate now." The hammer lifted again. "No," Oryn said. The word did not pardon Mavira. It did not clear her name. It only stopped the blow. Celise's face tightened. "Majesty, if that plate remains intact, the corruption may continue. Then the plate remains intact until I know what it is printing from." Mavira looked at him. "Now you want to read." His jaw flexed. The line struck him, but he did not answer it. Not with apology, not with command. He only kept his eyes on the plate. Good, Mavira thought. Let him feel the weight of silence without being allowed to decorate it. Celise stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to sound loyal. "The wedding cannot be delayed. Lady Ilvessa Torvane waits beneath the crown flame. Her house has given riders, coin, and southern grain to your throne. If this lower quarter spectacle stains her entrance, every ally will know the Dragon Court can be unsettled by a printer's trick." "A trick does not survive dragon heat," Oryn said. The page still hovered between them, edges glowing, unburned. Celise did not look at it. That was how Mavira knew fear had entered the room. Oryn turned to the nearest guard. "Lock the door. No one leaves with paper, plate, or ash. No one touches the press without my order." Mavira laughed once, without warmth. "Your order closed it." Oryn looked at her then. The heat around him shifted. Not anger exactly. Something held tighter. "Yes," he said. "And until I know what my order buried, it will not break another line." It was not enough. Mavira did not let it become enough. The Ember Press gave a low groan. Everyone turned. Its brass rollers did not move this time. The dragonmouth furnace remained open, dark inside except for one red pulse deep in the iron throat. The surviving testimony plate on the press bed had begun to glow along its carved lines. Mavira knew that plate. Halvegford, 29 names. One blood mark. One witness who had lost 3 fingers pulling a child from a grain house before dragonfire took the roof. The press could not print from nothing. It needed a plate that had carried testimony. It needed a mark from someone who had survived long enough to speak. Mavira took one step toward it. The guard holding her left wrist tightened his grip. Oryn's eyes cut to him. "Release her." Celise snapped. "Majesty." "I said, release her." The guard obeyed. Mavira did not thank him. She went to the press because the plate was glowing too hot, and she knew what overheated testimony did. It did not vanish. It distorted. It gave enemies room to call truth madness. She placed her numb right hand over the edge of the plate. Pain climbed her arm. The press recognized her touch and settled. Oryn saw it. Celise saw it too. And her fear sharpened into calculation. "You admit control of the corruption," Celise said. "I admit I know how not to ruin a witness," Mavira answered. The rollers turned once. A blank ash page slid into place. Mavira's breath caught. No, the machine ignored her because the first bell had already rung. Letters burned into the page slower this time, each stroke dragging heat from the blood mark set into the plate, not from Mavira alone. From the testimony itself, a name appeared first. Commander House Torvane. The crowd outside made one sound and then swallowed it. Celise went very still. Oryn stepped nearer to the press. "Read the rest." Mavira kept her hand on the plate, though feeling had left her fingertips completely. The page continued. Order given at Havoc Ford. Cleanse storehouses before dawn. Survivors to be entered as rebel dead. Child names to be removed from grain tithe record. The street outside the print house seemed to recede. The wedding bell's echo faded. All that remained was the scrape of burning letters across ash page and the silence of people realizing that a village did not burn itself into paperwork. Celise exhaled slowly. Forgery. Mavira looked at her. You called it corruption a moment ago. Corruption can forge. Then let Commander Vaughn deny his own title. Oryn's gaze sharpened. Vaughn Torvane is in the wedding procession. Celise answered too quickly. As he should be. He is honored today for service during the border fires. Mavira's hand slipped from the plate. Border fires. That was what noble mouths called villages once no roofs remained. The Ember Press groaned again, deeper now, as if something under the floor had heard its own grave renamed. The page turned black at the bottom. One final line burned through. Witness mark. Edrin Havik, declared dead. Celise reached for the page. Oryn caught her wrist before she touched it. Heat flared between their hands. Celise held his stare, pale but unbowed. Careful, Majesty, she whispered. A wedding crown is easier to scorch than a page. Mavira looked at the ash paper again. The name Edrin Havik burned brighter. Then the press printed one last sentence beneath it. Edrin Havik will be honored tonight as a loyal sacrifice to House Torvane. No one tore the page. After it named the dead man the wedding would praise. That was how truth first gained room. Not victory, not safety. Only room. The ash page hovered before Dragon King Oryn Vael, its ember black letters steady despite the heat rolling from his skin. Edrin Havik will be honored tonight as a loyal sacrifice to House Torvane. Outside the cinder print house, the crowd had gone so quiet that Mavira could hear the press cooling in small iron ticks behind her. Celise Tor withdrew her hand from Oryn's grip, as if she had chosen to do so. A ceremonial misreading, she said. Wedding honor rolls often use symbolic names. The dead are gathered into noble remembrance. It does not prove accusation. Mavira stared at her. You put a burned villager into the bride's honor roll after calling his testimony a lie. Celise looked at her with cold patience. I said his testimony was unlawful. I did not say his death lacked use. The cruelty was so clean that even one of the guards looked away. Oryn did not. His eyes had fixed on the name Edrin Havik, and something in his face tightened past anger into calculation. Who prepared the wedding honor roll? The Press-Warden office certified it, Celise said, as all public records require. Then you certified a dead witness as loyal to the house he accused. Celise's mouth hardened. Majesty, the second bell rings soon. Lady Ilvessa waits under the crown flame. House Torvane's commanders are already inside the citadel. If you drag lower quarter ash into the wedding hall, you do not investigate a stain, you spread it. Mavira laughed once, but there was no humor in it. That is what stains do when someone stops covering them. Oryn looked toward her hand. The fingers she used to set type still hung stiff at her side. She hated that he saw the numbness. She hated more that the press had taken feeling from them and not enough truth had yet been printed to make the loss worth it. Celise noticed his glance and moved at once. Bind her hand, she ordered. 2 guards stepped toward Mavira with a cooling cuff, iron-lined in white ash, used for printers who worked forbidden flame. Once locked, it would numb her hand completely for a full moon. Mavira stepped back until the press table touched her spine. Oryn's voice cut in. No cuff. Celise turned. The press prints through her. You saw it. I saw the press take from her. Then she is the source. No, Mavira said. I am the cost. The words silenced him. Good. Let him hear the difference. The Ember Press groaned softly behind her, not printing, only waiting. Its dragon-mouth furnace opened a finger wider, red pulse low in the dark. Mavira knew that sound. It wanted alignment. A press did not make testimony from air. It needed plate, pressure, mark, and hand. Truth had rules even when kings did not. She reached for the Halvek forward plate. The guard beside it shifted, uncertain. Celise smiled faintly. Touch it again and you prove my charge. Mavira placed her numb fingers on the edge anyway. Pain did not come this time. That frightened her more. She could not feel the plate at all. Still, she knew its grooves by memory. She had carved the letters after midnight, while Edrin Halvek sat across from her with 3 fingers missing and smoke scars down his throat, forcing out the names of children no ledger would keep. The mark is incomplete, she said. Oryn stepped closer. What does that mean? It means the press printed only what the surviving plate could still bear. Someone scraped part of the blood mark from the corner. Celise's eyes flickered. Mavira saw it. So did Oryn. Where would the missing mark be? He asked. Mavira looked at the ash page, then toward the high road that climbed to the dragon citadel. The second wedding bell had not rung yet, but the first had opened every public ceremonial book in the city. Marriage ledgers, honor rolls, dowry scrolls, flame vows. If they used Edrin's name tonight, she said, they needed proof of death, a blood mark. Celise's voice turned dangerous. Careful. Mavira kept her eyes on Oryn. The missing piece is in the wedding record. The street stirred. Oryn's heat rose. Celise stepped between them. Majesty, this is precisely why she is dangerous. She takes one corrupted page and points it toward your bride. Mavira looked past her. No, I point it toward the place your office put the blood. Oryn gave an order before Celise could speak again. The plate goes to the citadel. Mavira's stomach tightened. No. The king looked at her. She lifted her numb hand. Not without me. Celise almost laughed. You expect to enter the wedding hall after poisoning its peace? I expect the plate to be ruined if carried by hands that already tried to break it. Oryn did not answer quickly. Again that honest pause. Then he turned to the captain. Mavira Dusk comes under guard. The plate remains visible. The page remains visible. No one folds, seals, burns, blesses, or corrects either before I command it. Celise's expression sharpened. And if Lady Ilvessa refuses the insult? Oryn looked toward the citadel, where dragon banners burned gold in the dusk. Then she may refuse it in front of the page. It was still not justice. Mavira knew that. He was not clearing her name. He was carrying the evidence because it had finally become too bright to leave behind. But when a guard reached for her wounded hand, Oryn stopped him with one look. Not that hand, he said. Mavira hated the small heat that moved through her chest at that. She turned it into iron. The second wedding bell rang. The ash page trembled. The Ember Press woke once more, but no new sheet entered the rollers. Instead, the havoc plate glowed at the scraped corner, and a thin ember line leapt from it toward the Citadel Road, pointing like a vein toward the wedding hall. Across the page, beneath Edrin's name, one final sentence burned into being. Missing blood mark set into the bride's vow scroll. The Citadel gates opened before the wedding guards understood what they were letting inside. Not a bride, not a blessing. A testimony plate carried in full view, still glowing at one scraped corner, with Mavira Dusk walking behind it under guard and Dragon King Oryn Vael beside her in wedding armor that no longer looked ceremonial. The ash page floated above the plate like a small burning witness, refusing to fold, refusing to dim. The second bell still shook in the air. At the top of the black stone steps, the wedding hall blazed with crown flame. Golden fire poured from dragon braziers. Noble houses stood beneath banners of bronze, ivory, and red. Lady Ilvessa Torvane waited at the far end of the aisle, in a gown scaled with pale gold, her hands folded around a sealed vow scroll. She was beautiful in the way court painters loved, still, bright, polished until no fear could find an edge. Then she saw the page. Her fingers tightened. Mavira saw it. Celise Tor moved first, as always. Majesty, the lower quarter printer has been brought under disturbance. Let her be kept outside the crown circle until the vows are complete. Mavira almost smiled. Outside. Behind. After. Power loved the same words in every hall. Oryn did not look at Celise. His eyes stayed on the scroll in Ilvessa's hands. Open the vow record. A rustle passed through the wedding guests. Lord Von Torvane stood near the bride's family dais, broad-shouldered, silver-bearded, wearing a commander's mantle clasped with dragonbone. The same title had burned onto the ash page below Halvik Ford's dead. Commander Von Torvane. His gaze moved from Mavira to the plate, then away. Ilvessa lifted her chin. My king, this is not how vows are witnessed. No, Mavira said softly. It is how stolen blood comes home. Every head turned toward her. Celise's face hardened. You will not speak across a royal bride. Mavira held up her numb hand. You brought my pages here before I did. You stitched them into her vow. Ilvessa looked at Celise then. Just once. Not enough to prove guilt. Enough to prove ignorance was beginning to hurt. Oryn stepped into the crown circle. Flame bent toward him, recognizing dragon blood. Open the scroll. The vow master, an old priest with trembling hands, hesitated. Celise smiled coldly. If the vow scroll is opened before the appointed line, the wedding omen breaks. House Torvane may consider the rite insulted. Lord Vaughan spoke at last. House Torvane already considers this insulted. His voice was deep, steady, trained for command. Mavira imagined it ordering storehouses cleansed before dawn. Oryn turned toward him. Then stand close enough for the page to hear you. Vaughan did not move. The ash page did. It drifted 1 foot nearer to him, its edges glowing brighter. The wedding hall went still. Mavira felt the Halvik plate pull against the guard carrying it, not toward Vaughan. Toward Ilvessa's scroll, the missing blood mark wanted its stolen place. She reached for the plate. Oryn saw and said, "Release her hand." The guard obeyed. Celise snapped, "Majesty, she will contaminate the vow." Mavira placed her numb fingers on the plate's edge. "No, I will keep it from being corrected." The word made Celise's eyes sharpen. Corrected. That was what record offices called clean murder. The plate warmed under Mavira's touch, but she barely felt it. The fingers she used to set type had gone dull and distant, as if they belonged to a woman already buried. Still, she guided the ember line from the scraped corner across the aisle. It struck the bride's vow scroll. The seal did not break. It screamed. Ilvessa dropped the scroll. Oryn caught it before it hit the floor. Crown flame rushed up around his hands, dragon hot and white gold. The guests recoiled. Paper should have vanished in such heat. The vow scroll did not burn. Mavira's ash page lifted beside it like a twin. Solicivent Bala. Oryn looked at her. You knew. I knew enough to protect a wedding from a printer's theatrics. No, Mavira said. You knew enough to hide blood inside a vow. The vow master whispered a prayer and cut the seal with a ceremonial tooth blade. The scroll opened by itself, rolling down from Oryn's hands until the lower edge kissed the black floor. For a moment, it showed only wedding script. Dragon King Oryn Vael. Lady Ilvessa Torvane. Alliance sealed under crown flame. Then the ember line from the Halvik plate touched the lower margin. A dark red mark appeared beneath the bridal witness clause. 3 broken fingerprints. Adrian Helvik's missing hand mark. Mavira's throat closed. She had seen him press that mark with shaking breath, apologizing because he could no longer give a full hand to the page. Celise spoke before the hall could understand. A sacrifice mark. Many loyal dead are honored in vow margins. Mavira looked at Ilvessa. Did you know his name? Ilvessa's lips parted. Celise answered for her. The bride is not required to memorize every dead peasant sanctified by her house. The word peasant traveled badly through the hall. Oryn's eyes turned dragon bright. Mavira kept her hand on the plate and forced her numb fingers to hold. Then let the mark say why it was placed. The Ember Press was far below them in the lower quarter, but the plate heard her. The ash page turned black at the edges. Letters burned across the vow scroll, not over the wedding names, but beneath them, where dowry clauses lived. Edrin Havik, declared loyal sacrifice. Blood mark used to cleanse Havik Ford from rebellion ledger. Authorized by... The line stopped. Celise moved. Not toward Mavira, toward Ilvessa. She seized the bride's wrist and pressed a ring against the unfinished line. A Torvane bride ring, white gold around a red stone, bright with old house fire. The vow scroll flared. The unfinished letters twisted. Authorized by grieving survivor consent. Mavira went cold. A lie, she said. Celise smiled. A corrected record. The ash page trembled violently. Then the Halvek plate cracked down the center. Mavira cried out as pain finally returned to her fingers all at once, sharp enough to blacken the edge of her sight. Oryn reached for her, but she pulled back before his hand touched her. No, she breathed. Do not protect me after protecting the scroll. His hand stopped in the air. The vow scroll burned brighter. A final line appeared beneath the false consent, written in a different hand. Mavira knew it before she read it. Edrin's witness hand. I did not consent. The crown flame went out. The crown flame went out, and the wedding hall forgot how to breathe. For one impossible moment, the dragon citadel stood without its sacred fire. The white gold blaze that had burned above every royal vow for 300 years vanished from the braziers, from the crown circle, from the dragonbone arch over Lady Ilvessa Torvane's head. Smoke curled upward in thin gray threads. Then the guests understood what the darkness meant. A royal wedding had been interrupted, not by rebellion, by a dead man's refusal. I did not consent remained burned across the vow scroll in Edrin Halvik's hand, jagged and unmistakable beneath the false bridal clause. Celise Tor did not look at the words. She looked at the extinguished flame. That was when Mavira knew the Press-Warden's fear had never been only the page. It was the law the page could wake. Restore the crown flame, Lord von Torvane ordered. No one moved. Even the flame priests stared at the dark braziers, as if their prayers had become unfamiliar. Celise lifted Ilvessa's wrist higher. The Torvane bride ring still pressed to the scroll. The rite has been attacked by dead ink corruption. Until the printer is removed, no sacred flame can distinguish vow from accusation. Mavira stood over the cracked Halvek plate, her fingers numb and burning at once. The flame distinguished well enough. Celise turned on her. You killed the wedding fire. No, Mavira said. Edrin refused to warm it. A dangerous murmur passed through the hall. Lord Vaughan stepped down from the family dais. Seize her. The guards near Mavira moved. Oryn did too. He did not draw a sword. He did not need one. Heat rose around him in a hard, invisible wall, and the nearest guard stopped as sweat broke across his brow. No one touches her, Oryn said. Celise's eyes flashed. Majesty, if you shield the printer now, House Torvane will say you chose a lower quarter fire witch over your bride. Mavira looked at Oryn before he could answer. Do not make me grateful for being protected from the order your seal made possible. The words hit him in front of every noble in the hall. He accepted them without looking away. I am not asking for gratitude, he said. Good, she answered. You have not earned any. Ilvessa drew in a sharp breath. Mavira expected offense. Instead, the bride looked down at the ring still clamped around her own finger, then slowly pulled her wrist from Salice's grip. Salice's face hardened. My lady. Ilvessa did not look at her. Why did my ring change the record? Salice softened instantly. Because royal objects obey pressure. You are frightened. This woman is using that. I asked why, Ilvessa said. The hall shifted again. A bride questioning her own house inside the crown circle was a different kind of broken vow. Mavira bent toward the cracked plate. Pain trembled through her hand, but the grooves were still there. Damaged, not dead. The missing blood mark had returned from the vow scroll only partly. Edrin's refusal had opened one wound, not the whole body. The line was corrected with a house ring, Mavira said. That means the false consent was not added by ink alone. Oryn stepped closer. By what? Mavira looked at Salice's gloves. Salice did not move, but her fingers curled. By a purchased correction, Mavira said. Salice laughed softly. You invent crimes as easily as pages. No, pages can lie, plates remember pressure. Mavira placed her damaged fingers against the split in the Halvik plate. This time she did not wait for the Ember Press below the city to wake on its own. She pressed until blood gathered beneath one nail. A single black-red drop slipped into the crack. Far below, in the lower quarter, the dead machine answered. The whole wedding hall heard it, one deep iron breath rising through the dragonstone floors. The guests backed away from the aisle. Salice whispered, Impossible. Mavira kept her hand on the plate. You shut the doors. You did not silence the bed. The vow scroll shuddered in Oryn's hands. The ash page floated beside it, edges brightening. New letters formed across its lower margin, slower than before, each one pulling heat through Mavira's injured hand. Her knees nearly buckled. Oryn saw it and reached toward the plate, but stopped before touching. What do you need? He asked. Mavira swallowed pain. Not your hand. The answer hurt him. It should. She forced her numb fingers to hold the crack open. I need the bride to remove the ring. Ilvessa went still. Lord Vaughan snapped. You will do no such thing. Ilvessa looked at him then. If the ring is innocent, it can stand apart from the record. Salice's voice went low. My lady, a Torvane bride does not strip house fire before witnesses. Ilvessa's face paled, but she slid the ring from her finger. The moment it left her skin, the vow scroll convulsed. A strip of hidden writing burned through the wedding parchment, where the ring had touched it. Correction purchased. Original witness. Idrun Havik. False consent entered by Torvane command. Authorized hand. The letters stopped. Salice moved so fast her white robes snapped like flame. She threw a handful of pale ash from her sleeve toward the scroll. Not moon ash, print ash. Mavira knew the grain of it, fine and oily, made from burned proof sheets and scraped out names. It struck the hidden line and smothered the last words. The crown flame flickered back to life. Weak, wrong-colored, red instead of gold. Salice smiled. There. The right recognizes correction. Mavira stared at the red flame. No, she said. Oryn's gaze sharpened. What is it? That is not crown flame. The Havik plate cracked wider under her hand. Mavira's blood ran into the split, and the ash page twisted toward the red fire as if scenting rot. It is payment flame, she said. Salice's smile vanished. Across the ash page, one final line burned. before the false red flame could swallow it. Correction fee recorded in the Press-Warden vault. The red flame did not warm the hall. It priced it. Mavira felt that before she understood it. Crown flame had weight, old and solemn. The kind of sacred heat that pressed vows into law. This flame was thinner, greedier. It licked along the edge of the vow scroll as if searching for a number. Correction fee recorded in the Press-Warden vault. The words burned across the ash page, then held. Celise Tor lowered her hand slowly. The print ash on her fingers had not scattered. It clung to her gloves in gray streaks, oily and dark, like soot from a fire that had eaten names instead of wood. Lord von Torvane stepped forward. This has gone far enough. Mavira looked at him. For Halvek Ford, it went too far before dawn. His eyes hardened. Oryn turned towards Celise. Where is the vault? Celise's face did not change. That was her talent. Panic passed through her like a shadow under ice, visible only if one already knew where to look. The Press-Warden vault is a Crown Office archive, she said. It cannot be opened during a royal vow. The vow is already open, Mavira said. Celise's gaze cut to her. By corruption. By the blood you hid in it. The red flame flared. Ilvessa Torvane stood in the crown circle with her ringless hand closed against her chest. Without the bride ring, she looked younger, less carved, more aware that the house beneath her gown had teeth. Lady Celise, she said, if the fee is lawful, open the record. Vaughn's voice snapped. Ilvessa. She flinched, but she did not step back. That small refusal traveled through the hall. Celise saw the danger and changed weapons. Majesty, if you open a Press-Warden vault because a lower printer bled on a cracked plate, every corrected record in your kingdom becomes suspect. Border treaties, execution pardons, dowry claims, village clearances. You will not be investigating one fee. You will be inviting the realm to question every page that keeps peace. Oryn's eyes darkened. Then perhaps peace has been overcharging us. Mavira did not look at him. She could not afford to. The line was good, too good. The kind that made wounded things inside her want to believe a king could turn after one page and become something else. She had seen paper corrected too often to trust the first clean sentence. The havoc plate trembled under her hand. The crack down its center glowed red now, not with crown flame, but with payment flame. Mavira knew the difference because printers knew hunger. Crown flame sealed, payment flame consumed. It took proof and left a version rich men could survive. The vault will not open because he commands it, Mavira said. Oryn looked at her. Why? Because Press-Warden vaults do not answer kings first. Her numb fingers curled over the plate. They answer receipts. Celise went still. There it was. Mavira leaned closer to the plate. Every correction fee leaves a pressure mark. A price. A hand. A witness page burned to make room for the purchased lie. Celise's voice dropped. You are repeating forbidden guild theory. No, Mavira said. I am repeating what my master died before printing. The word surprised even her. She had not meant to give that much away. Oryn heard it. His gaze sharpened, but he did not reach for the wound. He had learned that much, at least. What do you need? He asked. Mavira swallowed against the heat climbing her arm. The false flame. Celise stepped back. Absolutely not. Oryn turned toward the red braziers. Mavira spoke before he moved. Not by hand. If dragonfire touches payment flame wrong, it will eat the plate and call the loss holy. Then how? Mavira looked at Ilvessa. The ring opened the lie. The bride's bare hand must remove the price. The hall chilled. Ilvessa stared at the red flame. What will it take? Mavira did not soften the answer. Skin, most likely. Vaughn surged forward. You will not put Torvane blood into a printer's witchcraft. Heat slammed down between him and the crown circle. Oryn had moved only one step, but the dragon in him filled the hall. You will not command her hand. Mavira's throat tightened despite herself. Not because he protected her, because this time he protected someone's choice before it was stolen. Ilvessa looked at her father's commander, then at the vow scroll. Slowly she extended her bare hand toward the red flame. Salisa's calm cracked. My lady, think carefully. Once touched, the record may not spare your house. Ilvessa's voice shook. Perhaps it should not. She touched the red flame. It did not burn like fire. It wrote. A thin line of scarlet numbers crawled across her palm and leapt into the ash page. Mavira pressed her injured fingers into the Halvik plate and forced the press law open through the crack. Far below the citadel, the Ember Press answered with one heavy breath. The page printed without moving. Correction fee. 60. Gold flame. Marks. Purchaser. Von Torvane. Broker. Press-Warden. Solicitor. Original testimony. Edron Havik, named Commander Von Torvane, as ordering storehouse burnings. Corrected record. Edron Havik. Loyal sacrifice. The wedding hall broke, not into screams, into sound too uneven to name. Vaughn reached for his sword. Oryn caught his wrist before the blade cleared its sheath. Dragon heat hissed through metal. Vaughn's face twisted, but Oryn did not break the arm. He only held it where every guest could see the commander had reached for steel before reaching for denial. Celeste did not run. She was too clever for that. She lifted both hands, print ash still marking her gloves, and said, A broker is not a murderer. A press-warden corrects dangerous records to prevent civil fracture. If Torvane paid, it paid to keep rebellion from spreading through grief. Mavira almost admired the speed of it. Almost. The ash page turned by itself towards Celise. One final line burned at the bottom, deeper than the others. Second fee pending. Mavira Dusk's silence. Mavira stopped breathing. Oryn looked at Celise. Celise looked at the guards. And every sealed page in the wedding hall began to smoke. Every sealed page in the wedding hall began to smoke. Not burn. Smoke. That was worse. Fire destroyed loudly. Smoke warned that something hidden was being heated from inside. Marriage contracts. Dowry ledgers. Border oaths. Tribute scrolls. Witness rolls, all the documents laid open for the royal wedding darkened at their edges, as if the ink beneath them had begun to remember a different shape. Mavira looked first at the page nearest Lady Ilvessa, then at Celise. The press-warden had gone too still. Those are corrected records, Mavira said. Celise's mouth tightened. Those are lawful records. They are smoking. Because you poisoned the hall. Oryn released Von Torvane's wrist, but not gently. The commander stumbled back, his half-drawn sword still hot enough to glow red along the guard. Oryn turned toward the smoking pages, and for the first time since Mavira had seen him, the Dragon King looked less like a ruler choosing a response and more like a man realizing his court had been built on paper that feared heat. Do not touch any sealed page, he ordered. Celise moved at once. Majesty, if those records smoke through the vows, every witness in this hall becomes vulnerable to unlawful reading. Mavira almost laughed. That is what frightens you? Not that they were bought? That they might be read? Celise faced the guests. Listen carefully. The lower printer has activated dead ink corruption inside a royal rite. If the records open, private agreements, family protections, and crown corrections may spill without context. Innocent houses will be harmed by grief masquerading as truth. There it was again. Not denial. Protection. The same word always came out when power wanted a locked door. The ash page beside Mavira trembled. Second fee pending. Mavira Dusk's silence. Her name sat there in ember black script, no longer accusation, no longer rumor, but price. Oryn looked at it. His face hardened. Mavira, he said quietly, what does a pending fee mean? She did not want his voice careful. Careful voices came too late. It means someone has paid to correct a record that has not been fully altered yet. Celise cut in. Guild superstition. Mavira kept her eyes on Oryn. It means the Press-Warden vault already holds money for my silence. Either my testimony was to be erased after the wedding, or my name was to be changed into something the court could punish. The red payment flame flared in the braziers. The smoking pages answered with thin lines of ember beneath their seals. Ilvessa took one step away from her family dais. What would they change her into? Celise's eyes flashed. My lady, do not indulge. A liar, Mavira said. A fire witch, a paid rebel, a mad printer who forged dead names because grief made her dangerous. The words tasted old, too ready, because she had heard them in the street that noon. Oryn heard it too. His gaze moved to Celise. The accusation was prepared before the press printed. Celise's expression did not change fast enough. That was answer. Mavira walked toward the nearest smoking ledger. The guards shifted, but no one grabbed her now. Not with Oryn standing between her and the blade line. Not with every page in the room breathing smoke. The ledger was sealed in red wax, stamped with the Press-Warden crest, a closed book under a flame. Mavira held out her damaged hand. Oryn stepped closer. Will it take more from you? Yes. The word cost, less than pretending. His jaw tightened. Then tell me how to pay instead. She looked at him then. For one breath, the hall narrowed to the space between his guilt and her refusal. You cannot buy back what your seal helped take. I did not say buy. No, she said. You said pay. He took the blow without defense. Mavira turned back to the ledger. It needs the hand named in the pending correction. Celise stepped forward sharply. Touch that ledger and you confirm treason against the crown record. Mavira placed her numb fingers on the smoking wax. The seal melted around her skin. Pain rose slowly this time, deep and dull, as if the nerves in her hand were too exhausted to scream properly. The ash page lifted behind her. The Ember Press, far below, gave another iron breath through the bones of the citadel. The ledger opened, not to a testimony, to a receipt. Payer. Celise Tor. Press-Warden Office. Purpose. Emergency character correction. Subject. Mavira Dusk. Approved description. Unstable ember. Printer. Source of dead ink contamination. To be detained after royal wedding. Mavira read the lines without blinking. She had expected it. Expectation did not make burial softer. Oryn's voice dropped. After the wedding. Mavira turned to him. Yes, once your bride was crowned clean, I would become the stain that explained everything. Ilvessa pressed one hand to her mouth. Von Torvane said, this proves only that the Press-Warden prepared for public disorder. The ledger smoked harder. A second receipt burned through beneath the first. Payer. Von Torvane. Purpose. Removal of surviving plates from cinder print house. Delivery. After first bell, before second. Celise closed her eyes once. Only once. But Mavira saw it. The first mistake of a woman who had run too many corrections and assumed every record would remain afraid. Oryn turned toward Vaughn. You sent payment to remove the plates before I reached the print house. Vaughn lifted his chin. I protected my house. Mavira's voice went cold. You protected the story? The smoking pages across the hall flared. Then the crown flame, still red and wrong, bent toward the wedding doors. A procession drum sounded outside. The third bell was coming. Celise opened her eyes and smiled. You are too late, she said. The wedding doors swung wide. Priests entered carrying the golden honor bier, the one meant to display House Torvane's loyal dead before the final vow. Upon it lay a white funeral banner embroidered with a name in royal flame thread, Eadrin Halvek. Beneath the name was a title no living witness had ever given him, Loyal Sacrifice of Torvane. No one bowed when the honor bier entered. That was the first fracture. In any other wedding, every guest would have lowered their head as the loyal dead were carried beneath crown flame. Tonight, the nobles only stared. The white funeral banner shimmered over the golden bier, embroidered with royal flame threads so bright it looked almost holy. Eadrin Halvek, Loyal Sacrifice of Torvane. Mavira could not feel her right hand, but something inside it clenched anyway. She remembered Eadrin alive. Smoke, scars down his throat. 3 fingers missing. Breath rough as burnt cloth. He had sat across from her in the cinder print house and forced himself to name Commander von Torvane because, he said, if he did not speak, Halvek Ford would die twice. Now his name lay on a wedding bier, cleaned into praise. Lord Vaughn lifted his chin. Proceed. The priests hesitated. Oryn's voice stopped them. Set the bier down. Vaughn turned. Majesty, the honor passage must be completed before the final vow. If the loyal dead are delayed, House Torvane is insulted before every ally present. Mavira looked at the banner. He is not your loyal dead. Celise Tor answered smoothly. A dead man belongs to the record that preserves him. No, Mavira said. A dead man belongs to the truth that killed him. The words moved through the hall like ash on wind. Celise stepped beside the bier, placing herself between Mavira and the banner. This is sacred wedding property. If the printer touches it, she desecrates royal mourning. Mavira almost laughed. Mourning. The word sounded obscene in Celise's mouth. The Halvek plate pulsed in the guard's hands, its cracked center glowing red-black. It was answering the banner. Not the gold bier, not the priests. The name. Mavira lifted her numb hand. Turn the banner. Celise's eyes narrowed. No. Oryn looked at her. Why not? Because a loyal sacrifice banner is read from the face. Its back is ceremonial backing. Mavira looked at Oryn then. Paper has 2 sides. Cloth does too. He understood before he liked understanding. Turn it, he said. Vaughn moved. You will not. Dragon heat struck the floor between him and the bier, cracking the black stone in a clean line. I said turn it, Oryn repeated. The priests obeyed with shaking hands. They lifted the white banner from the bier and turned it over. The back was not blank. A second layer of flame thread had been sewn beneath the face, hidden against the gold frame. The letters were smaller, redder, meant never to be seen by anyone not handling the cloth before ceremony. Mavira stepped closer. Her vision swam from pain, but she read every word. Rebellion dead, converted to loyal sacrifice. Public honor approved upon bridal vow. Final cleanse of Halvek Ford record to complete after third bell. Ilvessa made a sound like the air had left her body. Celise did not deny it. She did something worse. She reached for the banner with both gloved hands. Wedding cloth cannot testify. It can only carry right language. Mavira seized the lower edge before Celise could fold it. Her fingers should have failed. They did not. The Ember Press, far below the citadel, gave one iron breath. The banner heated under Mavira's hand, and pain returned in a single white line from nail to wrist. She nearly dropped it. Oryn stepped forward, but stopped himself with visible effort. Not your hand, she had told him. This time he remembered. What does it need? He asked. Mavira swallowed. Pressure, Celise hissed. Do not let her press wedding cloth. But Ilvessa stepped forward. Her face was pale. Her bare hand still carried the scarlet numbers from the payment flame. Use the vow table. Vaughn stared at her. Ilvessa. She did not look at him. If my wedding cloth is clean, it can survive being red. Mavira did look at her then, not with trust, but with a brief, hard respect. Together they spread the banner across the stone vow table. Mavira laid the cracked Halvik plate over the hidden text. The plate and cloth aligned with a sound like a lock finding its old door. The Ember Press answered from the lower quarter. No paper entered its rollers. No ink waited in its tray. Still, a sheet of ash page rose from the empty air above the vow table, as if the press had thrown its breath across the city. Letters burned into it slowly. Every stroke took heat from Mavira's ruined fingers. Oryn saw her knees buckle and moved without touching her, placing his own body between her and the watching hall so no one could mistake her weakness for surrender. Celise noticed. Her voice sharpened. Majesty, she is using your pity to stage a martyrdom. Mavira forced herself upright. If I wanted pity, I would have printed softer names. The ash page finished its first line. Honor beer contents. No body. The hall went cold. The priests backed away from the golden beer. Oryn's eyes turned toward Vaughn. Open it. Vaughn drew his sword. This time, he cleared the sheath. He did not point it at Oryn. He pointed it at Mavira. Enough. The hall broke into motion. Oryn moved faster. Dragonfire flashed from his hand, not striking Vaughn, but wrapping the commander's blade in white heat until the steel sagged like wax. Vaughn dropped it with a curse. Oryn did not look away from him. You draw on a printer before you open an empty beer, the Dragon King said. That tells me what you buried. Celise's calm finally cracked. Do not open it. Too late. Ilvessa reached the beer first. She pulled the golden latch. Inside lay no corpse, no bones, no ashes, only a sealed black box packed in funeral silk. Across the lid was the Press-Warden crest, a closed book beneath flame. Mavira's blood chilled. Celise had hidden the vault inside the wedding honor rite. Oryn looked at her. Open the box, Celise whispered. If you do, the wedding becomes evidence. Mavira touched the Halvik plate one last time. The ash page burned a final sentence before the third bell struck. Press-Warden vault transfer. Edrin Havik testimony sold. Body unconfirmed. Then the third wedding bell rang. From inside the sealed black box, someone knocked back. The knock did what no printed accusation had done. It made the wedding hall step back. Not from Mavira, from the golden honor beer. The sealed black box sat inside it, wrapped in funeral silk, stamped with the Press-Warden crest. A closed book beneath flame. The same mark that had sealed corrected records. The same mark that had turned burned villages into loyal sacrifices and living testimony into dangerous lies. Then the knock came again. Weak. Human. Lady Ilvessa Torvane covered her mouth with one bare hand. Lord Vaughn went very still beside the melted remains of his sword. Celise Tor looked at the box as if it had betrayed her personally. Oryn's voice cut through the hall. Open it. Celise turned sharply. Majesty, that is a protected vault vessel. If opened without ward sequence, it may destroy whatever unstable evidence remains inside. Mavira looked at her. You mean the witness? I mean evidence, Celise said. Do not dress a record in human skin just because it suits your grief. The box knocked a third time. Mavira moved first. Her injured hand shook at her side, the fingers she used to set type numb and burned, but her left hand still worked. She reached for the latch. Oryn stepped beside her, close enough that his dragon heat pressed against the cold pouring from the box, but not close enough to take the choice from her. Tell me what it needs. Mavira did not look at him. Not force. Celise laughed once. At last, she says something true. Mavira touched the Press-Warden crest. The metal was cold enough to bite. A vault vessel opens to the hand that paid, the hand that sealed, or the witness it contains. Then none of us can open it, Celise said. The box knocked again. This time, the sound scraped. Not knuckles. Bone against wood. Mavira's throat tightened. Edrin Havoc, she said, loud enough for the box to hear. If you are inside, mark once for yes. Silence. Then one knock. The hall broke into sound. Vaughn surged forward. This is theater. Ilvessa turned on him. Is he alive? Vaughn's jaw locked. That was answer enough. Celise lifted both hands. A half-dead rebel kept for legal preservation is still legally dead if declared under emergency correction. Mavira stared at her. You kept him alive enough to use his blood. His testimony was volatile. His testimony named your buyer. Celise's eyes hardened. His testimony would have started a border war. No, Mavira said. It would have interrupted a wedding. The ash page above the vow table flared as if it agreed. Oryn's face had gone still in the way mountains looked still before they split. How long? Celise did not answer. Mavira placed her burned fingers against the lid despite the pain. Edrin, mark the number of bells since they sealed you. The first knock came, then another, then another. By the 10th, Ilvessa had begun to cry without sound. By the 17th, even the priests looked away. By the 23rd, the box stopped. Mavira closed her eyes. 23 bells. Almost a full day in a death box beneath a wedding banner. Oryn turned to Celise. You brought a living witness into my wedding hall as a corpse. Celise's voice was calm again, which made it worse. I brought a dangerous record under containment. Oryn moved. The dragon in him moved with him. White gold fire coiled around the box, not burning it, but forcing the Press-Warden crest to glow. The metal screamed. Celise's composure broke enough for one step backward. Mavira grabbed Oryn's wrist with her left hand. The hall froze. So did he. Not dragonfire, she said. If you open it with royal flame, she will say the witness died by your hand. His eyes dropped to where she held him. She released him at once. The look on his face changed, but he said only, Then how? Mavira looked at Ilvessa. The bride's vow opened the false death. The bride's hand must ask the living record whether it consents to be read. Vaughn barked. No. Ilvessa did not look at him this time. She stepped to the box. Celise's voice sharpened. My lady, if you do this, House Torvane cannot protect you from what follows. Ilvessa placed her bare palm over the crest. Then it should have protected me from what came before. The red payment flame guttered. Mavira guided Ilvessa's hand lower, over the latch. Do not command him. Ask. Ilvessa swallowed. Edrin Havoc, do you consent to be opened before Crown Flame? For one breath, nothing moved. Then the box knocked once. The latch released. Cold smoke spilled across the vow table. Inside the black box was not a corpse. Edrin Havoc lay folded into a space too small for a living man, wrapped in strips of ash cloth marked with correction fees. His hair had gone white at the temples. His throat was scarred black from smoke. His right hand was bound in a silver clamp. the remaining fingers pierced with tiny print needles that fed dried blood into rolled witness slips beneath him. His eyes opened. They found Mavira first. "You printed," he rasped. Mavira's vision blurred. Not enough. His mouth twisted in something that might have been a smile if the world had been kinder. "Then finish." Selisimoda. She seized the red flame from the nearest brazier with her gloved hand and flung it toward the open box. Oryn caught the fire in his bare palm. The hall flashed white. His skin blackened across the fingers, but he held the flame shut in his fist until it died screaming. Mavira looked at the burn. He did not ask her to notice. That mattered more than it should have. Edrin's bound hand twitched. The witness slips beneath him began to smoke. Celise breathed hard. "If those slips open, Torvane falls. The Southern Grain Pact falls. Your wedding alliance falls. Your throne starves by winter." Oryn's burned hand closed tighter. "Then it should not have been fed on men in boxes." Mavira bent over Edrin. "What did they take from you?" His eyes shifted toward the vow scroll. "My death," he whispered. "They sold it before I finished living." The ash page above them turned black. The Ember Press answered from far below with a sound like iron grief. A final line burned across the page. "Final testimony requires the witness's breath, the printer's hand, and the king's public vow." Celise smiled through the smoke. "Now choose carefully, Majesty," she said. "A wedding vow can crown a bride, or it can condemn a house. It cannot do both." Oryn Vael looked at the vow scroll, then at the bride waiting beneath a dead crown flame, then at the man folded inside a box that had been carried into his wedding as a corpse. No one spoke. Even the red payment flame seemed to hold itself still. Celise Torr smiled, because silence had always served her. Silence gave officials time to rename wounds. Silence let houses weigh survival against truth. Silence made kings remember grain packs before graves. "A wedding vow can crown a bride," she said softly. "Or it can condemn a house. It cannot do both." Mavira stood beside Edrin's open vault box, her ruined hand trembling at her side. The fingers she used to set type were numb, burned beneath the nails, and still the Ember Press called for them. Final testimony required the witness's breath, the printer's hand, and the king's public vow. Not his regret, not his protection. A vow. Oryn turned toward Ilvessa. The bride had not moved. Her face was pale beneath the dragonbone arch, but her bare hand remained on the open vault lid, still marked by payment flame. "This was meant to be your crown," Oryn said. Ilvessa looked at Edrin Halvek, then at the false loyal sacrifice banner fallen across the bier. "Then let it begin without a lie." Lord von Torvane snarled, "You foolish girl." Ilvessa flinched. Mavira saw it. So did Oryn. Dragonfire flashed once across his eyes. "Commander von Torvane, you will not speak again unless the testimony asks for your voice." Von went red with fury, but the melted sword at his feet reminded the hall what his authority had become. Celise's smile thinned. "Majesty, if you use your public vow to open testimony against Torvane, the marriage pact dies here." Oryn looked at Mavira then. She braced herself for the old calculation. Alliance, grain, stability. A delayed wedding weighed against unread pages, but his eyes did not go to the page this time. They went to her hand. "I closed your door to stop your pages," he said, voice low enough that it did not perform sorrow for the hall. "I will not use a vow to close them again." Mavira did not soften. "Then vow correctly," she said. "Not to me. Not over me. To the record." The words struck him like an instruction and a judgment. He accepted both. Oryn stepped into the crown circle and placed his burned hand on the vow scroll. The red payment flame recoiled from his skin. The white gold crown flame did not return, but a single ember woke deep inside the largest brazier, waiting. Dragon King Oryn Vael raised his voice. Before crown flame, before witness breath, before the living and the wrongly named dead, I vow that no wedding, alliance, dowry, or hunger of my throne will seal this testimony before it is read. The Ember Press answered from the lower quarter. One iron breath shook the citadel floors. Mavira placed her damaged hand on the ash page. Pain came like a door opening inside bone. She nearly dropped. Oryn moved, then stopped himself before touching her. Good. She thought through the white heat. He was learning the shape of help that did not steal the work. Edren Halvek drew breath. It scraped through his ruined throat. Mavira leaned close, guiding the ash page under his mouth. The page caught the warmth of his living breath, and letters began to burn across it. I, Edren Halvek, survivor of Halvek Ford, witness that Commander von Torvane ordered the storehouses barred and burned before dawn. The hall broke into a single low sound. Edren coughed blood, but forced another breath. Child names were removed from grain tithe record. Survivors were declared rebel dead. My death was sold before I finished living. Mavira's fingers buckled against the page. The Ember Press took heat from her hand with every line, but the page did not finish until Edren's last breath of testimony crossed it. Then the ash page rose. Not toward Celise, toward the crown flame. The waiting ember in the brazier opened. White gold fire returned with a roar, but it did not consume the testimony. It wrapped around the page like a seal and spread outward through every smoking record in the hall. Corrected ledgers split. Purchase margins opened. Dowry clauses peeled back from hidden death marks. Names rose from ash all across the wedding chamber. Not one village. 3. Not one fee. Dozens. Celise stepped backward. For the first time, there was nowhere official left to stand. The crown flame wrote across the air above her. Press-Warden Celise Tor, broker of corrected deaths, seller of erased testimony, keeper of paid silence. Her gloves caught fire. She screamed and tore them off. Underneath, her hands were covered in tiny black words, names written so small they had looked like age spots until flame gave them voice. Mavira starred. Every erased testimony Celise had sold had left itself in her skin. Oryn's voice turned cold. Celise Tor is stripped of the Press-Warden office. Her vaults open before public flame. Every corrected death under her seal will be read. Vaughn reached for a fallen guard's dagger. Ilvessa saw him first. Witnessed, she said. The crown flame struck Vaughn's hand before Oryn did. The dagger fell. The testimony page turned toward him, and the white gold fire wrote his command across the floor at his feet. No title survived it. No house name softened it. Only the order. Burn the storehouses before dawn. Von Torvane sank to his knees as the hall moved away from him. Not out of mercy. Out of recognition. Edren's breath rattled inside the box. Mavira turned back to him, but he was looking past her, toward the ash page blazing in protected flame. You printed, he whispered. Mavira's throat closed. Enough? His eyes softened. Enough to make them read. Then his hand fell still. This time, no one called him loyal sacrifice. Oryn removed the wedding mantle from his shoulders and laid it over the edge of the vault box, not as honor, not as ownership, but to cover a living witness who had been used as a corpse for too long. Ilvessa took the Torvane bride ring from the vow table and placed it in the crown flame. It melted without song. There will be no wedding over this, she said. No one argued. Mavira turned toward the open doors of the hall. Far below, Beyond the citadel steps, the cinder print house breathed again. Ash pages rose from the lower quarter, thousands of them, flying over the capital like burning birds that no dragonfire could kill. Each carried a name. Each carried a witness. Each survived the flame. Oryn stood beside her, close but not claiming space she had paid for in blood. "The press remains open," he said, "under crown protection." Mavira looked at him. No, the words startled the hall. She lifted her ruined hand. Not crown protection, flame law protection, public record. No king closes it alone. Again, not even you. Oryn bowed his head once. Yes, it was not romance yet, not forgiveness, but it was the first vow he made that did not ask her to disappear inside it. Mavira stepped down from the crown circle, past the dead red flame, past the broken wedding banner, past the nobles who had learned too late that paper could outlive power. Outside, the first ash pages fell over the capital. No longer accusation. Records. The Ember Press printed until dawn, and every page that touched dragonfire burned brighter. Mavira Dusk walked back toward the cinder print house with blood under her nails, her craft damaged but not dead, and behind her the Dragon King followed without speaking, carrying the first protected testimony in both burned hands. The wedding had failed. The truth had not.